Hey there, bookworms. So we are going to talk about one of my favorite authors, Grady Hendrix, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I have to say that this book is not at all what I expected. I don't really like to read too much into books before I read them. It's like with movie trailers, I don't really like to watch too much of them because I want the surprise. I want to just get a quick little synopsis, and if I want to read it, I read it, right? So I didn't realize how emotional this one was gonna be. I didn't think I was gonna cry. It was just so good. I have some notes, of course, because I do forget stuff and I want to not go off the rails too much. So I'm going to give a brief synopsis about the book, and if you like it, whatever I'm talking about, the description, exit out, so that way you can go and read it and I don't spoil everything for you. So let's just get straight into it. So it's May 1970, and Fern, who was given that name, but you find out her real name later, her father's taking her from her hometown in Alabama to Florida because she's 15 and pregnant. And he's embarrassed, ashamed, whatever, right? So he's taking her over here to this home where she will live the duration of her pregnancy, and she will give her baby up for adoption to a nice family that the home is connected to, and then she will go back home with her own family, and that's about it, right? It'll be like if it never happened. So when she goes here to this home, this is where she meets Rose, a hippie girl, Zinnia, the smart little bookworm, Holly, a very young, just turned 14-year-old girl that's very different, very odd. And if you haven't noticed, they all have names of flowers, including Fern, because it's to keep a sense of anonymity. So while she's there and getting closer to these girls and, just living, they have chores and they have little things that they need to do, but they get a bookmobile. And Zinnia and Fern are particularly excited about this because they're the readers. So get there, they meet the librarian, but she's so much more than a librarian. She's actually a witch. And the girls learn much more about themselves and about witchcraft than they ever thought that they would. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and exit up out of here, because I am going to tell you the entire story, spoilers, all of that. And if you want to hear me tell it, which I hope that you do, then stick around. It's May 1970, and Neva, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Neva Craven is on the road from Alabama to Florida with her father. And she is on her way to Florida because she is going to Miss Wellwood's home for wayward girls. She's 15 and pregnant, and her father couldn't be more ashamed. So like the whole ride there, she's just beating herself up. She doesn't even want to ask him if he can pull over so she can go to the bathroom, because like right now her baby is just pushing on her bladder. She's 26 weeks pregnant, which is like approximately 6 months. And she's starting to show, and her dad is just so embarrassed. So on the road there, it's just like her going over it in her mind about like, how could I let this happen, and why did this happen to me? So you're kind of gathering that Neva was a really smart girl. She was in theater. She loves movies and celebrities and pop culture, and she's just a very interesting girl. Books, she loves to read. So she grew up in a very nice household. She's kind of talking about her parents. They still live together. She has a brother and a sister. She's the oldest. She's got a brother and a sister, and this is just one of those things that they never really thought would happen, right? It's like, this couldn't happen to us. And Neva was so smart and so into school. She's just very disappointed in herself. and more disappointed because her father is so disappointed, and he won't even really look at her, and she's very sad. At one point, she finally does ask him if he can stop because she can't hold it any longer. Like, this baby's like pushing on her bladder, and he takes off his wedding ring and he gives it to her, and he's like, here, put this on, like, just so that like these strangers in a gas station won't look at her bad. And that makes her feel even worse. So she, she listens and she does that, right? So finally they arrive at the home, and Miss Wellwood comes out and greets them, and she's not particularly nice. She's even like, oh, we usually don't get the girls until, Friday or whatever, and we like to get the girls in the evening so that the neighbors don't see. And it's just like, okay, girl. Miss Wellwood inherited the home from her father, so it's been there for like ever. And I mean, it's like at this point people know what y'all do, but whatever. So they go in, and Miss Wellwood, says her pleasantries to, Fern. Well, her name will be Fern soon, but to Neva. She does not ask her name, and she sends her off with another girl, Rose. So Rose is the one that kind of tells her like the rundown. She's this real pretty blonde girl, hippie. She's a little older. She's 17, Fern's 15, Neva's 15. And she tells her like, hey, this is, what we do here, whatever, kind of introducing her to people and all that. And while they're talking, she is just kind of like sitting there, and this one girl like runs in, right? Like she's like running, and she runs like up the stairs and like closes her door. So Fern's just kind of looking. Like, all the girls are just like living and doing their thing because Rose has been there a while, right? And Fern's the new girl. Neva's the new girl. I keep calling her Fern because that's what her name is going to become in the first chapter. Anyway, so this girl like runs inside and like closes the door, and then one of the nurses that we'll find out is Nurse Kent, a woman that works there, she's like banging on the door, and she's like, open the door, come on out. And the girl won't come out, and the other girls are kind of gossiping. They're like, she's supposed to stay off salt, and she just ate a whole bag of chips. So poor Neva is just like, oh my gosh, like, this is weird. Like, I don't belong here. Like, these girls, like, she's still kind of like separating herself from like realizing that like, no, you really are one of these girls. But it's just her first impression, right? So they're all kind of talking, and the girls are really into like zodiac signs, and they're like, so Fern, or so what's your sign? And they don't call her Fern yet, I'm sorry, they just say like, so what's your sign? And she's like, I'm a Virgo. And they're like, oh, this girl's a Virgo. And Rose is like, I'm a Leo. And so it's like really cute, like all the girls are really into all that, just like very hippie, some of them. All this is going on, and Fern like hears the car, right? Well, Neva, I'm sorry, I keep calling her that. Neva hears the car, and she realizes her dad is like taking off, and she's heartbroken because she thought that he would at least say goodbye to her or give her a hug or like something, and he just like really doesn't want anything to do with her at this point. So she's just like, her whole world is just being flipped upside down, and all she has is his wedding ring. So now it's Miss Wellwood's turn to have a talk with her, and this is when she tells her, your name is Fern, because all of the girls here are my garden of girls, and I give everybody a flower name. That's why we had Rose and some of the other girls, they all have flower names. And she says, you will meet with Dr. Vincent to get a full physical. Fern's kind of like, well, I already, did that. She's like, doesn't matter, you're gonna do that here. You'll have chores. You will see a social worker, which is Diane. She says you will see her. We will also have teachers here to make sure that you don't get behind on your schoolwork. You will be talking with somebody and going over what you've learned or whatever, so that you don't fall behind, because after you give your baby up for adoption and you go home, you're going to go back to school. So we just have to make sure that, you're able to do that. And she tells her, you won't tell anyone that you're from Alabama. We keep our anonymity and take it very seriously here. You will be from Baltimore if anyone asks. And lights are out at 10 p.m. Once that's it, we lock up the house, that's it. She even tells her, you came in through the front door, the next time you go out that door is when you're leaving. No more. You only use the side doors because we don't want to disrupt the neighbors. Like, I mean, it's just like very strict at this house. So you can kind of see how Miss Wayward feels about it, because she even refers to the pregnancy, right? She says, these are the consequences of behaving like a barnyard animal. Like, okay, girl. And she's like a Bible thumper. So she ends up telling her, Genesis 3:16, in sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. And it's a direct quote about Eve's disobedience to God. So it's going to hurt you. You're going to be in so much pain. Like, she's just like beating her down, right? So now Fern is just kind of like, okay, what can I say, right? She agrees and says yes to everything, and then goes out there to be with the girls. She comes out there and you can just like see it in her face that she's kind of sad. And Rose is like, look, you need to get used to it. This is how it's going to be here, you know, but after you have your baby or whatever, you can do whatever you want. But for now, you're going to have to toughen up. I love Rose, by the way. Like, out of all of the girls, I feel like I identify with Rose the most. Even though she's a Leo and I'm not, still, I love her energy. She's just so like the fieriness to her, and she's really cool. Like, I love Rose throughout the whole book. So now it's dinner time, and we're introduced to the staff. It's Hagar, Miriam, Jasmine, Nurse Kent, Laurel. These are all women that just like work around the home. Some are in the kitchen, some are just like helping out with the girls. And Dr. Vincent. Dr. Vincent is the one that oversees everybody. So at dinner, he ends up telling all the girls that their assault privileges have been revoked because of what one of the girls did with the bag of chips, and they aren't supposed to gain more than 5 pounds on their pregnancy. Like, people just really had no idea what was going on with pregnancy in 1970, or maybe they did and they were just very harsh on women. I'm not real sure. I wasn't alive then, but it was just not a good time for women at all. The next morning, she does have her visit with Dr. Vincent, and she gets her baby's due date, which is August 14th, 1970. So like, her baby's gonna be a Leo too, right? And that'll come in later with like her and Rose's friendship and so on, but it's just kind of a, you know, cute idea. 29 weeks. It's the 3rd trimester. Baby's over 2 pounds, and you can expect sciatica and swelling. This is kind of how the chapters are divided up, and I think it's kind of cool. So Fern's been here a couple weeks already, and Miss Wellwood is just like having them do all types of chores. I mean, they have to like polish silver, and every day they have something, right? And then like once a week they have something on this day, and it's just like kind of repetitive, right? And she's like telling all the girls, like, this is gonna make you all great wives one day. And the girls, some of them are like just so over it, and some of the other ones are like really buying into the whole mess, right? So the school teacher is there, and they have this like one of the girls, right? Her name's Ivy, and Ivy sends letters talking about what it's like being a single mother, because this is one of the girls that decided to keep her baby, and still gives updates to, you know, the home. And it's not funny, but it's just like Grady Hendrix is like so like, even when it's like an emotional part, like he'll still throw in some humor. I love his books. So Ivy, a single mother, right? And she says it's so hard because her son like was on the playground and ran up to her and said like, "Mommy, what's a pastor?" And she's just like trying to explain it, and all the girls are just listening like, oh my gosh, right? And Rose stands up and she's like, are y'all really falling for this brainwashing propaganda? There is no Ivy. Why would anybody keep in touch with this place? And she's just like, and the school teacher's like, there is an Ivy. And Rose is like, whatever, like, I'm so sure. Rose is not listening, and she's like, this is just propaganda, just like Betty Crocker. There is no Betty Crocker. This is just to make you all get in line. And like, and so Fern's like listening to this. She's like, well, maybe she's right, you know, like, like I love Rose so much. So the girls, after all this, right, you know, Fern's kind of staying close to Rose, and they're all talking, and this is when Fern's really talking about what she wants, and she's talking about her baby, and she's like, I'm gonna have a little girl, and her name is gonna be Blossom. And me and Blossom, we're gonna have a farm. It's gonna be secluded from everybody. We're gonna just live off the land, grow our own food. We're gonna take baths in the waterfalls. Every night we're gonna lay up and look at the stars, and I'm gonna teach my daughter all about all the constellations and name all the stars, and she's gonna know everything. And while everyone in the city is being polluted or being, you know, getting sick from pollution and just dealing with, you know, this media propaganda and all of that, she says, me and Blossom are going to be living large and breathing fresh air, and I can't wait for that. And some of the girls are just listening, like, man, they didn't even consider keeping their children. Like, it's just been so, like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna, you know, have this baby, give it up, because I have no other choice. And you can see in that moment that some of the girls are questioning it, like, do I even want to give up my baby? Like, what if I want to be a mom? What if I want to keep my baby? And it's just it's like a very sweet moment between all of them, and it's really making them, the other girls, kind of question what it is that they want. And Holly is the youngest girl there. She's a mute. She carries around like a little stuffed animal, and she's very childish. Like, she just turned 14, but she may as well be 10. She acts like she doesn't understand a lot. She's very dirty, like in her hygiene. But Fern just feels like she's really taken a liking to Holly. She feels for her, and she's questioning a lot, like, you know, who got her pregnant? Like, how did this even happen? Like, this girl is like a little girl. Like, even though, you know, 14 is young, period, but Holly just presents so little. So Fern just feels like a little connection there, even though Holly's completely mute and doesn't talk to anyone. So, I mean, Fern's already been there a few weeks, and all she's really heard about delivery and pregnancy is just how awful it's going to be and how bad she is for getting pregnant. Miss Wellwood does not make it easy on anybody. She's just constantly like beating them over the head with Bible scriptures, and it's a whole thing. So, I mean, Fern's pregnant, right? And throughout the whole book at this point, you've kind of realized that she has to pee like all the time. Like, the baby's like literally sitting on her bladder. So she gets up to go to the bathroom, and she's kind of like, something's wrong. Like, she feels something's off. And when she goes in there, one of the girls was trying to deliver her own baby by herself in the restroom, and there's just like mess everywhere. I mean, it literally looks like a crime scene. And this just completely traumatizes Fern. She like calls for help, and they go in there, and the girl's almost dying. Like, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's a little teenage girl, and they're not really given a lot of information on how to do this. And it's 1970, so resources are just very limited for a lot of these girls too. So Fern's terrified, and she's just like, all right, you know what? Like, I don't even know what to make of that. Like, now she feels like she knows even less about this process after seeing all of that. 28 weeks. Baby's experiencing dreams and opening their eyes a little bit. So this night after dinner, Miss Wellwood stayed a little longer than usual. Usually she's out by 6, like stays no later than she has to. If she doesn't live at the home, she has her own place, but she comes and goes. So the girls are just kind of like, why is Miss Wellwood still here? Like, oh, this sucks. We can't even like hang out. Like, they don't want to be around her. And that's when they realize they hear a car, and there's a new girl coming in who will be Zinnia. And she's black. So the girls are kind of murmuring and like talking. They're like, why would somebody bring a black girl to Florida? Like, there was still segregation in a lot of areas. Racism was so heavy. I mean, it was not a good place for people of color. Hagar and Miriam are sisters, and they are black, and there are a few people there, but like, it's just not like good experiences for them, right? Still a very racist community, and she ends up coming in, and the girls all, welcome her with open arms because like they're not racist, but they know how people are, like the older people. So they talk with her, and she's very sweet and very smart. And her and Fern hit it off right away because like they both like books and they like movies, and just they kind of become buddy buddy, right? And the girls are like, because Zinnia actually like looks very like well off. Like her parents arrive in a nice car. Like her family looks like very decent people, right? So they're just like, why? Like, how did she get pregnant, right? Like, like she just looks like too smart for that. Kind of like Fern in that way, where she was just like, this doesn't happen to girls like me. And even though we know that that's like, that's not true and that's not how this works, but it's a different time, right? So, um, yeah, Zinnia's like, yeah, my boyfriend, he and I, he's gonna wait for me, and we're gonna get married, and she's got like her whole fantasy, and Rose is kind of rolling her eyes at this point. She's like, yeah, all right, sure. But yeah, they kind of just chat, and then it's funny because it's not funny, but they don't have a lot of room. So Zinnia's gonna be up in the attic, and Rose is like, absolutely not. And she's like, oh, so there's another woman, Miss Dreckle. Miss Dreckle is like the right hand man to Miss Wellwood, but she's not as like Bible thumper. She's just not cool, but she's not as like crazy. So Rose is like, you're gonna put the black girl in the attic? What is she, Anne Frank? And she's just going off. She's pissed. She's like going off, and she's like, we're not free until we're all free. You're not gonna put her in the attic. Do you know how hot it gets up there? Because I mean, mind you, this is like May. Like, it's hot in Florida if you've ever been there, and it's humid and like, right? So Miss Dreckle's like, well, what do you want me to do, Rose? Like, there's no room. She's like, what do you want to give her, your bed? And Rose is like, happily, she can take my bed. I have no problem with that. I'll take the attic. So she's like, whatever, you know what? Just give Rose whatever she wants. Like, Rose is like, I'm not having y'all put this poor girl in an attic. so, so that night they all just kind of like hang out and, get to know each other a little bit better, right? Okay, so Monday rolls around, and this is going to be bookmobile day because I believe that was Friday night that Zinnia got there and all that happened. So Monday rolls around, it's bookmobile day, and the girls are like really excited. Well, Zinnia and Fern, the other girls don't really care too much because they're not readers, but they can only get one book, and then they have to wait, I think it's like 2 weeks to even get the next, bookmobile book, or the bookmobile to come. So Fern and Zinnia talk like Rose and Holly and another girl into like coming in and grabbing a book. Rose is already over it. And, like, they just go in and they're looking, and Miss Dreckle's like, 10 minutes, hurry up. And I need to approve the books. And they're not allowed to get anything. And really what Fern wants, like, yes, she wants to read. And so she's having the girls like find her something like in fiction, but she really wants some information on pregnancy, kind of like a what to expect when you're expecting type of thing. Like, she's just like, I need to know, what's going on in my body. Like, nobody's explaining anything to me. So she meets with the librarian, and she's like, do you happen to have anything, any help for my pregnancy? And like, you can just see that she's scared, right? I'm this little 15-year-old girl. And Miss Parse, which is the librarian, she looks at her and she's like, here, I have something that might help. It's like a paperback novel, and it says How to Be a Groovy Witch. And Fern's like, girl, I don't think this is like gonna help. And so she's like, no, I don't know if this is what I'm looking for, right? And Miss Parsley is like, I think it's exactly what you're looking for. And by the way, come over here. And she just touches her belly and she does something, and Fern's like kind of terrified. And then she's like, my bladder, like, oh my gosh. And Miss Parse just does like a little shift. She's like, I think that's going to help. And you should really read that book. So this is the introduction to How to Be a Groovy Witch. Okay, so this is 1970. The girls don't know any better, but they all smoke cigarettes. So they're like hanging out in Rose's cool attic room, and Rose has her lava lamp, and they're all just like hanging around, right, chilling. Even Holly, even though Holly doesn't talk, like they love her and they just like let her hang out, right? So Fern is like, all right, let's see what this book is about. Like, let's open it up. And I'm actually gonna read like the first little excerpt from it. So here it is, and it kind of like, it does that like periodically throughout the book. You'll just see like little, you know, parts of the chapters or whatever, right? So this is How to Be a Groovy Witch. A witch follows no rules and does nothing that does not please her. A witch is guided by her will alone, and if a law does not serve her desires, she will ignore it. Rules make her yawn and guidelines bore her. However, the following statements condense some basic principles of our craft. Number 1, do not start anything you cannot finish. Number 2, intention matters. Number 3, accept anger, accept weakness, accept pain. As these cannot be avoided, turn them to your use. Number 4, use care, caution, and common sense in all that you do. This book is not for children or morons. I love that. So the girls are kind of like, well, what do we do, right? How should we try this? Like, let's do a spell. Like, you know, what spell should we do? And they're all getting kind of excited. The book, you've kind of like learned that Zinnia is sick all the time. Like, she can't even smell pine sol. She can't keep food down. Like, everything just like upsets her stomach, and she's like throwing up constantly, and she can't do anything about it. And Dr. Vincent is like, he's just so awful with her, and he tells her that she's just like, her body is like, I think like, what does he call it? He just like basically says that like her body's too immature to handle pregnancy, and that she just needs to learn how to control it in her mind. And like, he's a man, like what does he know about being pregnant, right? So whatever. Well, that's kind of what they settle on. Fern is like, I think that we should give him a taste of his own medicine. Like, he should feel what Zinnia feels. And Zinnia's really like, she's kind of my least favorite character because she's so negative. She doesn't believe in any of this. She's like very goody two shoes. She doesn't want to like, she just isn't super like cool about any of it, but she agrees. She's like, fine, let's see what happens. So over the next couple days, the girls are like getting all their supplies and everything that they need to get, because the book kind of guides them as to what they should do. They get an egg and all this stuff, right? So they do this ritual on Zinnia. So they basically put her sickness into this egg. And the idea is that when Fern goes in for her next clinic appointment, which is just a couple days away, she's going to transfer it into Dr. Vincent. So they're like, yeah, let's see what happens, whatever. And they all kind of time it perfectly. And Zinnia has to like wait, and they do it like exactly at a certain time. Zinnia's gonna smell the pine sol in like a little liquid cap, and they're gonna see how Dr. Vincent reacts. It works. It works so fast. Like, Dr. Vincent starts getting sick. He like projectile vomits and he can't hold it together. And all the girls are like, oh my gosh. Like, well, first it's just Fern, right? But all the girls can hear it because it's so loud that he's like, oh, just like super sick. So Fern gets out of there, and all the girls are like, we did it. Yeah, we did it. And Rose is all excited because Rose, like, she's down, but she just doesn't like to read or anything. So she's like, I'll help with the other stuff, right? But she's real cool about it. So it worked, and now Dr. Vincent is like out. Like, they're not gonna see him. Like, he was just super sick. He had to go home. He couldn't even finish like the rest of the day. And the girls are really excited about it. So, of course, Zinnia is the only one that's like, oh no, it could have just been a coincidence. And like, she's just not cool, like at all. So whatever, the girls go to sleep, and I think they're hanging out. Yeah, Rose is downstairs hanging out with them too, and they're all in bed. Fern is laying down with Holly and stuff too, right? Well, she feels Holly moving. She wakes up, and there's this big black dog in their room, like this massive dog. And they're like, how did it even get in here? Like, the doors are locked. Like, there's no way. Well, Holly immediately like gets up to go and pet the dog, and Fern's like, hey, stop it, Holly. Like, you don't even know where that animal could bite your hand off. And Holly's like this teeny tiny little chick, and she's like all happy to see the dog. Well, the dog kind of guides her, like kind of like insinuates like, follow me. And she does. Holly takes off. She like opens the door and everything and takes off. And the girls, well, Fern's already woke up, Zinnia and Rose, and she's like, Holly took off with the dog. Holly took off with the dog. What are we gonna do? And she wants to go, but of course Zinnia is like, no, we can't. Like, we shouldn't. And just very goody two shoes. And Fern's like, we're not leaving Holly with that massive animal. Like, that dog could tear her to pieces. So they do. They follow her. Well, they're following her, and they're following this dog, and they're realizing that they're getting further from the house. Like, they're walking into the woods. Well, swamp, I guess, because it's Florida, right? So woodsy, swampy area. The grass is really high. There's insects. There's these big like flies, and it's super gross. And the girls are kind of scared, but they're like, let's just keep going. Like, let's follow Holly. Let's see where this goes. And as they're walking, the path starts to change. They come up on this water, and the water like takes them, but they're not gonna drown. Like, that's the thing, is that it's like this weird, like almost like a wormhole, or like some type of dimension switch, or something happens. And the girls go through it, and the dog is still guiding them. As they can pass through it, they're walking again, still following the dog, and they're all kind of sharing stories, and you're learning a little bit more about like Rose's guy that she's pregnant by, who's like a rich kid, and he promised to stay with her, and then his family ends up like giving him all this money and like setting him up like in LA to leave, and basically just like leave Rose behind, forget that this ever happened. And so all this stuff happened, right? Poor Rose. And Zinnia talks a little bit more about her boyfriend, and how like they both play piano and jazz, and they just had this instant connection, and then they slept together, and they're still in love. And Rose is like, yeah, right, he's gonna leave you. And she's like, shut up, Rose, like, whatever. And Fern talks about her dude. His name was Guy, and he's like a total tool. He's like this dude from her school, and they hooked up in the backseat of like her dad's car. And she's like, it was over before it even began. Like, it was just like this quick thing, and it was just whatever. And he bailed on her. First he told her he'd stick it out, and then he ends up telling her like, I'm out of here. And just, I guess it's a tale as old as time, right? So they're kind of chatting about that. Holly is a mute, so she's not saying anything. And while they're talking, they hear a voice, and it's the librarian. The librarian sense that they used the book, right? She's connected to this book. You'll find out later that she actually wrote it, and she's on the cover, but a much younger version of herself. So the girls don't like, it doesn't click right away, but she's connected to the book. So she's like, huh, so your spell worked. And they're like, Miss Percy. So her dog's name is Decima, and she's like, yeah, Decima went to get you, and I wanted to talk to you all. I want to see if you all want to come to my side. And girls are like, what do you mean your side? This is weird. And she's like, look, if you renounce all that you know, you renounce the world, you renounce God, and you cross over here to the witch side, to the dark side, you can have whatever you want. We'll make it happen. Anything that you want, it'll be yours. But you have to sign your name in the book with your own blood, and you are going to get whatever you want. Zinnia's like, hell no. She doesn't want to do it, Fern's a little nervous. Rose is like, this lady's a con artist. Like, she's a con artist, Fern. Let's get out of here. And Fern's like, I don't know. Like, the spell worked. Like, you all saw it work. And Rose is just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it's just going to be one thing after another with these people. And Zinnia's like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. The spell didn't work. It was just a coincidence. And so they're arguing. They're all fighting. And Fern's like, I don't know. I mean, this is kind of cool. So Miss Parsley's like, well, what do all of you want? You know, what do you want? And Rose is like, I want to have my baby, and I want to just be able to run away to her farm. And she wanted her life with her little girl Blossom. Zinnia doesn't even care about anything. She doesn't even want to entertain this. Fern, she just wants her life to go back to normal. She's like, I'm already doing what I want to do. Like, I'm already here. I'm gonna have this baby, and then I'm gonna go home, and like, there's really nothing left for me to want. So they're kind of just like, we're gonna get out of here. And that's when Holly finally speaks, and she's like, please, you girls have to help me. I'm having God's baby. And they're like, what? And Rose is like, you haven't said 2 words since you got here. I've been here for months with you, and you've never spoken, and now you want to talk? She's like, look, I know it's not God's baby, but the thing is I'm having the Reverend's baby, and where I'm from, that's as close to God as he can get. It's more than God. And they're like, you know, now they're really invested, because they're like, oh my God, Holly, like, what's going on? And when Holly was 8 years old, she was in choir at her church, and the Reverend took a liking to her. So he started spending more and more time with her, bringing her over, letting her stay at his house. And her parents, like, didn't see anything wrong with this. I mean, I just think they're just like religious psychosis freaks, but that's just me. So she's telling the girls this, right? And she's like, and then, you know, I didn't really realize what was happening until I got a little older. And his wife would help. She's like, the first night I went there, his wife gave me a bath and got me ready and set me up in the bed and everything for him to come in and do whatever he was going to do to me. And she's like, but it started to really like hit that something was wrong. She's like, so I told my mom, and my mom told me I was a liar and washed my mouth out with soap, put the whole bar of soap in my mouth, and she just started yelling at me and screaming scripture at me. She's like, so then I told my dad, and my dad started screaming at me, and he whipped me and just started hitting me. And then he told my mom what I said, and my mom whipped me again and put more soap in my mouth and called me a liar. She's like, so then I just stopped talking. Like, nobody's gonna listen, nobody cares. She said, so when they brought me here, she said it was Reverend Jerry said that he's going to wait till I have my baby, and then he's going to come pick us up, and he's going to take us back home, and he's going to keep my baby. She's like, but I can't let him do that, because then he's going to do the same thing to my baby. And if, you know, she's like, if I have a girl, like, forget it. And so now she's crying, and all the girls are crying, and she's like, and I have a cousin. She said, my cousin died during childbirth, so that's the only thing I can hope for right now, is that I just die and the baby does too, and at least we won't have to go back there. So now Rose is like, I'm in. She tells Miss Parsley, I'm in. What do I gotta do? I want to help her. I want to do this so she doesn't have to go home and that she'll be okay. And Zinnia's like, oh, a minute ago you said she's a con artist. She's like, well, with this new information, I've changed my mind and I want to be a witch. So I love Rose. Like, Rose is so me. I'd be like, I'm down. Let's do this. Poor Holly. So Fern's like, yeah, me too. So she's ready. Rose is ready. And Zinnia's like, well, I guess I have to do it too, you know, for Holly. Super annoying. So they do. They do the ritual and cut their hands and do the seance. Well, it's not really a seance, it's more of a ritual and I guess a spell, sort of, the chants and all that, just to get them in the motion. And they fly. Like at one point, they levitate, and it's just this whole like initiation thing. And Miss Parsley guides them, and she says, "Okay, now you all go back home." So Miss Wellwood, in the morning, she realizes that she's like, "Some of you girls snuck out. I know it. I know that. We're gonna put extra locks on the door." And she's just going off, and nobody confesses. And of course, she thinks that it's like Rose. Rose is like, "I didn't do anything." She's just like, she doesn't crack. So at this point, Fern is like fully immersed into this book. Like she's like, "I have to learn it. I have to know what's going on. I have to read it, but I don't understand anything. Like the words, things are changing. The book kind of changes on its own." So she's like, I don't understand what I'm reading, but I have to help Holly." So the bookmobile comes around, and she tells Miss Parsley, like, "Hey, it's a little hard for us to get out of here because Miss Wellwood knows that some of the girls snuck out. We didn't say anything, but I need more help. I need help understanding this book." And Miss Parsley is like, "I'll send Decima to come over here and guide you all out. That way, every night I'll send the dog, and then same thing. That way you can get up out of here." And they're just like not able to get out. Everything comes to a halt because July 3rd rolls around. The girls are all hanging out, eating, watching TV. They're, hearing what's going on the news and so on. And Dr. Vincent's finally back, right? He's real skinny and he looks kind of sick, but like, better. So he tells Rose, like, "All right, Rose, pack your bag. We're going to take you in to be induced." And she's like, "For what? Like, I know that my due date's coming up, but I'm not ready yet." But the thing is that nobody wants to work on the 4th of July, and they'd rather get it over with early rather than later in case she does go into labor the following day, which she says that she doesn't feel anything. She doesn't want to go. So she's refusing. They have to get Diane, the social worker, involved. They've got Nurse Kent up there, and everybody's up there. And Rose is like, "I'm not going. You're not going to force Blossom to come out until she's ready. I don't feel ready to give birth." Well, she's protesting. She's angry. She's like, "No, this is because you all don't want to work on a holiday, and I'm not going to do it." And she's just fighting with everybody. So they drug her. They inject her with like a needle, and she's just like completely defeated, and they drag her out. And the girls are so mad. Like the rest of the girls. Fern is like, "I cannot believe they did this to Rose." Like everybody's just upset. Like the house does not feel the same. The girls are, just watching it happen was so awful, especially to Rose, who's like so like strong and free-spirited. Like they just hated what they saw, right? So now they're like, "This could happen to me. Like these people really don't care." So 33 weeks. The baby is swallowing and breathing. The girls are taken downtown on the 4th of July, and they get to see the fireworks and, the whole thing. And they're looking at the hospital. They know Rose is in there, and all the girls are like, "Oh, you think we're going to get to see Blossom? She's going to, she's not going to give up the baby, right?" So they're like, "We're going to get to meet Blossom, and I'm so excited." And everybody's ready, and they're like, "Oh, we just like want to hold the baby, and we miss Rose," and whatever, right? So then they go home and so on, and Rose doesn't come back for like 2 more days, which is completely unusual. They were expecting her back a little earlier. But there's the home, and then there's the barn. The barn has like air conditioning, and it's like a different, they call it the barn, but it's not where they keep animals. It's kind of where the girls, when they come back after delivering, they go in there, and they kind of recover until it's time to go home. So Rose, is taken into the barn. So the girls are like, "We got to sneak in there to go see Rose," right? And they do, and she's not the same Rose. There is no Blossom. All the girls were hoping to see Blossom, and she's like, "I did what everybody did. I gave her up." And I had to, because she's like, I have no money. I have nowhere to go. Like, where am I going to take this baby? My family's not going to accept it. Like, it's just this seeing Rose defeated made the other girls feel defeated. So there's, Fern is just like crying with her, and Rose is like, don't cry. This is going to happen to you too. Like, you need to suck it up, and we're just going to deal with it, and we move on. That's it. But, Rose doesn't actually feel like that. Like, she's obviously depressed. So that night, they see Decima waiting, and they decide, like, let's go. We're going to go see Decima. We're going to go see Miss Parcay. Rose is pissed. Like, she's just on fire. So they follow Decima, but this time it was like a little different, because as they're walking, they hear like a shotgun. They hear like, they're like, what the hell? They ran into the coven. So there's all these girls like, what are you doing out here? Why are you out here? And they tell them, hey, we're looking for Miss Parcay. And they're like, oh, you girls are from the home? All right, come over here. So they meet Mags, and Mags is this old crazy lady. She's like wearing a diaper. She's got horrible hygiene. Her hair's a mess. She's walking around, she's talking to herself. And they meet some of the others there that are a little different. Everybody's just got like a very different look to them. They all come from different walks of life and different reasons and stuff for them being in the coven, and some of them are a little bit cooler than others, but they meet them. So then they get in there with Miss Parcay, and Miss Parcay doesn't look so good. She looks older, sicker, like just very like old, right? And the girls are like, all right, whatever. So they sit and they talk with her, and Miss Parcay is like, so what do y'all want? And Rose is like, I want to make these people pay for what they did to me. I want them to feel the hurt and the pain, and I want to unleash all of it for what they did to me. They drugged me and made me deliver my baby that wasn't ready. I didn't get any more time with her, and then they took her from me because I don't have anywhere to take her, and I'm angry. And she says, Fern, what do you want? Fern's like, well, I want to help Rose. Like, I just want to do for Rose. So she's like, okay. And she tells Fern, you go wait outside. I'm going to talk with Rose and whatever. So she does that, and Fern's gathering a little more information about the coven and kind of just seeing how they live and, asking some questions or whatever. Then Rose comes out, and she's like, I'm ready. Let's go. So the girls leave. Whenever they get back, of course, I don't know why they tell Zinnia anything, but she, she's just a total stick in the mud about it. And she's like, it's going to backfire, and this is bad, and you shouldn't be doing that. And I'm just like, okay, girl, fine. So they have to start gathering their supplies because Rose is going to leave. She's going to get picked up, and that's it. She only has like a day or two. She's going to stay there. And the spell needs to be performed over like a couple of days. So Fern is going to be the one to do the other half of the spell, right? And Holly's invested. She's helping too. So with all the girls together, they're a little stronger. They have a little more energy, and they perform part of the spell. And then, like I said, Fern's got to do the rest. So Rose leaves, and it's really cute because all the girls run to the door, and they do this thing where they go fingers and legs. So fingers crossed for good luck, and legs crossed so that you don't end up back here. I thought that was kind of cute. Sweet, right? And, they're like, all right, so Rose is gone, and immediately the house feels different. Like, all the girls just feel like there's no Blossom, there's no Rose. Like, everyone's just kind of feeling a little down, right? And a little defeated. So Rose is like, I gotta do this. And one of the other girls, she's usually the one that goes to give Miss Wellwood her tea and all her stuff, like her little snack and her things. But Fern needs to put something in there. Sorry if you can see the cat hair. Fern needs to put something in the drink and like make a mixture, put it in there. And of course, Zinnia's like, you're not really gonna do this, right? This is wrong. And Fern's like, girl, get over it. Like, I gotta do this for my girl Rose. Like, damn. So she does. She completes it. She completes her part of the spell. And well, pretty sure that it worked. Because the next day, when the girls are supposed to have lunch, Hagar's getting the tuna ready. They're gonna have tuna sandwiches and some stuff. And Miss Wellwood walks in and she could smell something, and she's like, that tuna's gone bad. You're giving the girls rotten tuna. And Hagar's like, no, like I would never, like there's no way I would do that. She's like, throw it out, throw it all out. Hagar's like, all right, girl, fine. And she's like, I need to go home. I feel sick. So she goes home. So now, 37 weeks. Baby's hearing is extra sharp, and he can respond to his mother's voice. So at this point, Miss Wellwood hasn't been home for a couple days. And Fern's like a little nervous because she's like, what if we like did something worse than what we did to Dr. Vincent? Like, Rose was really upset. So she tells Miss Parcay, and Miss Parcay's like, that's her business. That's what she wants to do. Did you complete the spell for your friend? And she's like, well, yeah, I did. She's like, okay, then that's all that matters. She's like, so what about you, Fern? Do you want to keep your baby and come with us in the coven? And Fern's like, why would I do that? Like, no. She's like, well, you're very strong. You're ready for this. And I need to pass my knowledge down. So when Fern was at the coven, she realized that woman, Mags, the crazy lady, and a couple of the other girls, what they do is like this ritual where one of the witches like that is seen as like more powerful or just very intuitive, they kind of like take all of the knowledge from their ancestors and from all of the witches that came before them, and they have it within themselves. So like Miss Parcay is a librarian because she is a library. She is like a conduit pretty much of like knowledge from all of these witches that came before, like pre-Salem, like just a long lineage, and they get to live for a long time, but that doesn't mean that they don't get sick or that they don't die. So she needs to pass that on to somebody, and she wants it to be Fern. Fern's like, why would it be me? She's like, because you're the one who's able to do this. You're the reason that these spells are working, because you're the one that wanted this book, and like you've learned the most, and you've got it. Fern's like, no, look, you need to take Holly. And she kind of explains what has happened to Holly and what her future's going to be if she stays or if she goes, has the baby and has to go home and all that. She's like, you need to take Holly. And Miss Parcay's like, yeah, but Holly's not strong enough. She's like, well, what do we need to do to make her valuable to you? She goes, just get Holly to make it rain. It's been very hot. We haven't had rain in a while. It's Florida. It's July. So she's like, have her make it rain and we'll talk. So sure enough, that night, Holly and, sorry, it's my cat. She sees something outside the window. Holly and Fern, not Zinnia, because Zinnia's already like, why are y'all leaving? What's going on? And, right, just being not cool, of course. The girls, they sneak out. And she's like, come on, Holly, if we can make it rain, if we can do this, we can prove to Miss Parcay that you're a witch too. And then you can go with them. Holly's like, yes, I'll do anything. So they sneak out. Well, while this is happening, Hagar and Miriam are at their own house, right? They're not in the Wellwood home or the Wayward home, right? They're at their own house. And Hagar, she's, the woman from the kitchen, she wakes up in the middle of the night and she's like, something's wrong. I feel it. Hagar's kind of witchy. So she's got some of that, bloodline in her. She knows a few things. And she's recalling a night that their mother passed away. Her and Miriam's mother passed away. And she had felt it and she knew something was going on and so on. But their mother passed away in a car accident and the girls never wanted to drive. Like, it was just a fear, the trauma of it. And it happened when they were little girls. So they've always gotten rides, but they do have a car. And in case of an emergency, but they don't like to drive. So Hagar is like, I feel it. I feel something's going on. So she tells Miriam, sister, I'm gonna go see Miss Wellwood. Something's wrong. Are you sure? Miriam's asking her. She's like, yes, I'm going. Gets in her car, drives over to Miss Wellwood's house. She starts knocking on the door real hard. And Miss Wellwood's like, get out of here, Hagar. What are you doing here? And she's like talking through the door. She goes, Miss Wellwood, I need you to open the door. She's like, no, I'm not gonna open the door. It's the middle of the night. Go home. She's like, something is wrong with you, and I need you to open this door. Or if you don't, I'm gonna keep knocking. I'm gonna make a whole scene. So Miss Wellwood's like, fine, and she's got all the lights off. She won't even like show herself. And Hagar just gets in there, right? Miss Wellwood's like 8 months pregnant. Within a few days, she's got a big belly, right? And Hagar's like, okay. And she looks so sick and just tired and just like defeated, and she's in so much pain. And she's just like, what do you want? And Hagar's like, I'll be right back. I gotta go get my sister. Drives back, and she tells Miriam, get your things, get, X, Y, and Z. We need to go right now. So Miriam's like, what's going on? She's like, something's happened to Miss Wellwood. They go back to Wellwood's house. It is so bad. This woman is screaming and crying in pain. She feels like her insides are burning. And Hagar and Miriam are, they know how to deliver a baby. They've been doing it for years. They've been helping these girls for years. They know what's up. So they're helping her deliver. And while this is happening, she's disassociating, and she's going to a memory when she was 28 years old. Because by now, Miss Wellwood's already in her, almost 60 years old. So this pregnancy, all of it's weird, right? Like, how did this happen? So she's going to a memory when she was 28, and her father is delivering a baby to a girl that just died. The girl died during childbirth, and the father's delivering the baby, and Miss Wellwood is watching this happen, and she loved her. She loved that girl. Like, she's like, man, there was a girl that we got along. We talked all the time. So the trauma of just seeing this happen. And the father is telling her, in that one, Miss Wellwood's pregnant. She goes, in that one, he's like, I wish I would have had a son. You've been nothing but a disappointment to me, and you're not keeping that baby, and I will never be okay with you marrying that man. Miss Wellwood was in love with this guy that like worked at the church, and he would like fix organs and different instruments, pianos and stuff. Like, he was like one of those guys, like a handyman. And but he was poor, so Mr. Wellwood was like, absolutely not. So he sent her away to a different home, not there in their home, because then everybody would know that she was that disappointment. And he sent her away to another home, and at this home she had to deliver her baby, but she had to keep him. It was a little boy. She had to keep him for 3 weeks and nurse him and care for him, and then the adopted parents would come and pick him up. It wasn't just right there at the hospital the way that it is for these girls. It's an even earlier time. So that left a scar on Miss Wellwood, and you kind of understand why she's so angry and mean, which I still don't agree with it, because like, she was doing all of this like awfulness to these girls in hopes that like her dead father would like approve of her, and she's always crying and praying with his picture out. Like, it's just very weird. And I mean, I guess I empathize or sympathize with her a little bit, but at the same time, I'm like, there's no reason for you to be so mean to these girls when you know what they're going through. But nonetheless, she's disassociating to that place while she's delivering. And Hagar has a bucket, right? And you just hear like things splashing, like hitting it, just hitting the bucket and like splashing around. She's delivering these black eels, like an eel from the water, like I can't even begin to imagine. And they're like screeching and just like hitting each other in the bucket. And Miss Wellwood feels like she's dying. And Hagar takes the bucket to the kitchen, and she's just cracking the skulls and flushing them down the toilet, and Miriam's holding Miss Wellwood, and she's just crying her eyes out, and it's just really awful. But that's what Rose wanted. Rose wanted them to feel the pain that she felt, and that was equivalent to what it was like having her being drugged and not ever getting to see her baby or know where she went or know what happened to her, because her plan was to keep the baby. And then when she comes out of it, they basically told her, like, well, that's fine, but you're gonna owe the money to the Wellwood house and you owe the money to the hospital, because the only way this is a deal is if those people get a baby, the adopted family that have already come and paid for this stuff. And it's just, it's a system, right? And this is how they did this to these girls. And Rose felt so defeated. Like, she felt like what could she do? She didn't have any money. She didn't have a home. She didn't have a place to take this baby. What was she gonna do? So this was the equivalent of the pain that she felt, and Miss Wellwood had to be the bearer of it. So Hagar, while that's happening, Holly and Fern are trying to make it rain. They're naked. They're doing this ritual out in the backyard, and Decima, the dog, is watching over all of it, and they've cut themselves. I mean, the whole thing, trying to make this happen, and it's not working because Fern was able to lead all the other spells, but this one has to be Holly, and Holly keeps messing up on the words, and it's just not happening. So while they're still trying to do this, headlights pull up. They're like, oh my gosh, it's Hagar. Hagar's like, get in here. I know that y'all did something's going on. So they walk in, and Zinnia tells everything, of course. She tells on the girls and what happened and the book and the whole thing, right? So at this point, Fern's just like, fine, here's everything. And Hagar's like, all right, I need y'all to go and get some silver, get the pieces out of that trunk over there. We need to put some stuff, we need to bury it and put this here, and some horseshoes over here. The horseshoes are gonna help because they're made of iron. They're gonna help the witches not be able to cross through. Everything's gonna be fine. So they do that. Now here we are, and Fern has just been told that she's on her 2-week warning. She doesn't need to do any chores. She can't lift certain things, whatever, right? So all of the girls are doing their work, but Fern's just hanging out, right? Hanging out outside, whatever. And that's when the first stone falls. They hear something, like a crack. And then they start noticing it's like hail, but they're stones. Start falling all around them. It's like a stone storm, and the girls are covering their bellies, and they're running, and they're terrified. They're running inside, and the house gets all torn up, and Fern knows it's the witches because they didn't follow through on their promise. They didn't come through with the storm, and Fern has already told Miss Parse that she's not gonna be a part of this coven, and they're coming to collect, because remember, the girls put their names down in that book. They're supposed to come in and do their part with the coven, but they haven't wanted to. So some of the girls end up at the hospital. Once the storm stops, some of the girls end up at the hospital, and Miss Wellwood shows up, and she's like, this was vandalism. We're gonna board up the house. They board up the whole house. Miss Wellwood's not telling anybody about what happened to her. She just shows back up like if nothing, right? And she noticed that the silver was missing. So all the girls have to like dig it up and wipe it down. And she's like, something's been going on in this house. I'm gonna get to the bottom of it. And it's just like, now the house is like on even more lockdown than it was before. Girls go to sleep at night, and now they're hearing knocking and tapping, and the witches are gonna find a way to come in, right? But before that, Hagar had put some salt all around. She told the girls, because the girls were scared that now that without the silver and the horseshoes, what were they gonna do? So Hagar puts salt around the rooms and outside the doors and everything. And she's like, just make sure you clean it up in the morning before Miss Wellwood sees it, because then we're going to have an even bigger problem. So the witches can't come in, but they're throwing rocks and stones and things again at the house. They're not successful. Well, Miss Wellwood finds the salt. So she sweeps it up. What's going on around here? And it's just this whole thing. So now the girls are even bigger trouble. And the next night, there's nothing protecting them at this point. Miss Parcay is able to get in, and she finds Fern, and all the girls are terrified and they don't know what's going on. And mind you, the Manson murders had already happened, right? So like they knew about Sharon Tate, and everybody's scared. Well, the ones that don't know about the witchcraft, right? So Fern knows exactly what this is about. Holly knows, Zinnia knows, but they're not saying anything. So Miss Parcay does make it in, and she's like, Fern, let's go. You can come with me. We'll help you deliver the baby. I can even make it pain-free if you come with me. You can come away with your baby, but Holly's not coming. It's just going to be you. She's like, I don't want to go. You know, no, you can't make me go. Well, she's going into labor at this point, but she's 38 weeks, so it's, you know, it's healthy. It's not that it's premature. And she goes into labor. Water breaks. She's like, it's just all the stress of it all, right? So that night, Parcay makes herself, you know, she disappears off into the shadows. And Nurse Kent puts Fern into a cab, and she's like, all right, go on. We'll see you later. Fern's terrified, right? She's like, I'm going alone. Like, I don't know anybody. I don't know what to do. I don't know these people. Like, Fern's just super scared. And she's going in as a Jane Doe. So not even her family's being notified. Like, it's all happening so fast. So the nurses and the doctors and all the staff are just talking about her like she's not even there, and they're just like kind of putting her down about like being one of those kind of girls. It's just really sad. Oh, before she left, Hagar had given her a little pouch. It's like a mojo bag, like of protection. She had given her a little pouch to wear around her neck because Fern was scared that, you know, like, what if she comes and gets me at the hospital, and what am I gonna do? The nurses notice that she has it on and she's going into labor. They take it off of her, and she's like, no, you don't understand. I need it. And they're like, you'll get it back later. Just lean back. And they drug her, put her to sleep so she can deliver. And poor Fern, you know, she wakes up. Miss Parcay's there in her room. Fern has no baby. And she's just like, I'm not going with you. Miss Parcay's like, you're coming one way or another. I could have helped you, and you could have had your baby and everything, but I'm going to get what I want. You signed your name. You said you would do this, and now you're going to do it. And then she disappears. So poor Fern, she's there, and she had been calling her baby Charlie Brown for like the last 2 weeks because she was pretty sure she was having a boy. I want to meet him. And the social worker, Diane, is already there, and she's like, you didn't have a boyfriend, you had a girl. So Fern's like, I had a girl? Like, where is she? I want to meet her. And she's like, we're not going to let you do that, Fern, because it's going to be harder for you. The new family is going to be on their way, and, you know, you're going to have to give her up. She's like, please just let me meet her. So they do, and it's just killing Fern. She's like, I have to take her. I got to keep her. She keeps the name Charlie because she's like, I always liked, you know, boys' names for girls. I think it's cute, and she doesn't want to give her up. But eventually they tell her basically the same thing that they told Rose. They tell her you have to pay the Wellwood house, and you have to pay for the hospital, you know, all of this stuff, and where are you going to take the baby? And she gives Charlie Brown up, and it's just killing her. So she goes home, back to the barn. She doesn't want to talk to anybody. Except one of the other girls that you don't really hear much about. I think her name is Brianny. She comes out there, and she's like, I had a little boy, and they kind of chat a little bit. They listen to music and keep each other company because it's not a good day for either of them, obviously. When Zinnia and Holly find out that Fern's back, they sneak out there, and they're like, we just want to talk to you. We miss you. And Fern doesn't really care. Not that she doesn't care about the girls, but she just doesn't want to talk. And Zinnia's like, look, we've made a plan for Holly. When she goes into labor, we're going to take her over to Hagar's house, see if they can deliver. We've already contacted Rose. Rose's parents are they're all going to be out of town. They're going on a vacation. Rose is going to leave a key and some money for us. So once we get done here, after we deliver, we need to get out there and, do what we got to do. We can stay there for a couple of weeks until we find the next plan for Holly. And Fern's like, grow up. Seriously. Like, then what? You don't even know if they're going to be there or not be there. You don't even know how much money there's going to be there. Like, she's just very negative after just what happened to her. And Zinnia's upset, and they kind of get into it and whatever. She's like, I have a week left until my dad picks me up because, again, she delivered at 38 weeks instead of 40. So she's like, I'm just going to wait it out. Whatever, I just want to be left alone. So about 2 days later, I believe, like 3 days later, they hear Miss Wellwood talking to somebody, and Holly's real weird, and they're like, what's going on? Like, whatever. Holly just doesn't even want to, she's back to not talking. She's back to being the way she was. And they realize it's because Miss Wellwood is talking to Reverend Jerry. He got there to check on Holly and see what's going on with her. So she doesn't want to talk, she doesn't want to do anything, and Zinnia's concerned, and now Fern's concerned, and whatever. So after he leaves, it's been another 4 days, and Holly is still, she's regressed back to the mute and not wanting to talk or anything. And she's just been in her room. So Zinnia comes to the barn to get Fern, and she's like, Fern, you need to come and check on Holly. And she's like, what do you want me to do? Zinnia, like, she's obviously going through it. There's nothing we can do about it. She's like, no, seriously, something's wrong. Like, she won't talk to me, and she won't even open the door. It's only got to be you. So Fern goes out there and knocking. Holly, let me in. And finally she gets herself in. And Holly is like, she's really sick. She's delivering the baby by herself. Well, Fern saw that happen with another girl, and so now she's terrified, and she's like, we got to get her out of here. So they tell Nurse Kent. Nurse Kent calls the cab, and Zinnia's like, you have to come, Fern, like, you have to come and help me with her because we're going to go to Hagar's. And Fern's like, I'm not going to go. She's like, please, look. She's like, if, we can get her over there, because Fern's like, well, how is anybody going to know where Hagar lives? Like, we don't know where she lives. We don't know what to do. She's like, look, if the cab driver's a black man, I can ask him because there's not a lot of black people here. Like, we could find Hagar. Sure enough, that's exactly what happens. The man knows who Hagar is. He's like, oh yeah, like, she lives over here in this place, whatever. So they take Holly out there, and the guy is not down. He doesn't want to do it, but they're like, please, mister, we're just going to stop for a minute, and then we're going to go to the hospital, but we're picking up Hagar. They're not picking up Hagar. They just get there, and they're like, okay, bye. So they go inside, and Hagar's like, no, y'all need to leave. I'm not doing this. And then she sees Holly. She's dying. She looks terrible. She's like, fine, bring her in. And Holly does almost die. But Hagar and Miriam are able to save her and the baby. The baby, they thought it was going to be, it was just a bad situation. So they end up saving Holly and the baby, and the girls are just crying and bonding and holding each other. And even Hagar is just like, man, this is a lot, And she tells the girls, okay, but y'all need to leave now. I'm sorry, but y'all can't stay here. I don't want these types of problems. Y'all don't understand what it's like to be a colored person caught in these problems. It's not as easy as it is for the white people that'll just get away with this type of stuff. Like, y'all really need to go. So Holly's just grateful, right, that they took them in at all. They're leaving. And before they can even get anywhere, Miss Wellwood's there, the cops are there, Dr. Vincent's there, They're like, we know you all never showed up to the hospital and you came out here after they tracked down the cab driver and this whole thing. So the girls are just like, all right, whatever, we're caught, fine. And Miss Wellwood's screaming at Hagar, and Hagar's like, you know what? She said, you know that that man did that to this little girl. You know that Holly didn't do this consensually, and you're still gonna give her baby up to this man. She's like, that's none of our business, Hagar, and I'll be waiting for you in my office and we're gonna talk about this. And Hagar's like, no, I'm done. I'm not condoning this. I did my part. I helped her, but I'm done and I don't want anything to do with you. So Miss Wellwood's like, whatever. Get the girls in the car. And the cops won't take Zinnia because she's black. And the segregation, and they don't want to put them in the same car. It's this whole disgusting mess. So they take Fern because Fern, they're saying, is the one that like was the ringleader of this and whatever. So Fern has to get in the cop car. Miss Wellwood takes the other girls, and the cops are actually going to take Fern to jail until she can get picked up because Miss Wellwood's like, I don't want her at the house. Take her. Well, they end up taking her back to the home because she's like a minor or something. They don't know what's going to happen there. They're like, let's get back to the home really quick, see what we can, work out. And the cops are just being total a-holes and saying all this mean stuff to Fern, and Fern's just like, whatever. Well, when they pull up to the Wellwood house, Reverend Jerry's already outside. They called it and tell him that Holly had gone into labor, so he showed up immediately. He's already there with the baby in his arm. Holly just looks defeated. Fern's watching all of this. Zinnia's standing out there. Like, it's just a horrible scene. And they're all just like comforting Reverend Jerry, Miss Wellwood and Dr. Kent, and make sure the baby's okay. And he's got the baby in his arms, and this is killing Fern. She's still in the back of the cop car. And she's like, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. And they're like, if you throw up in here, you're going to clean it. And she's like, open the door. Because, you can't open the cop car from the inside. So one of the cops lets her out, and she like goes and runs by a tree, and she's just like super sick, watching and listening and just going over it and what they did to Rose and all this anger and resentment and everything they've been through is just building up in her, right? She sees a glass bottle outside. She cracks it and she cuts her tongue, and she starts doing the chant. She starts doing the ritual. She starts shouting it out. Holly's storm, the one that was supposed to be for Holly, she's doing it now. She's so mad, and she's calling on Hecate. And if you know anything about that goddess, you already know that she don't come to play. So she's doing this ritual. The first stone, another one, this massive hail rocks, like the wind starts, like the storm is coming. It's bad. And all the girls are terrified. The cops like get hit on the head, and like people's hands are being smashed, and it's bad. The house is bad. Fern can't see anything. She doesn't know what's going on because she's just in the trance. She just hears all the chaos, and she ends up running inside one of the cop cars when she realizes that these stones are coming down really bad. These massive hail rocks. So after she's kind of started to calm down, she hears a little knock on the window. And Miss Parsley opens the door. She's like, I knew you could do it. And Fern's like, what did I do? Like, how bad is it? Destruction. The house is destroyed. There's furniture everywhere. There's things everywhere. There's girls with their covering their heads, and it's just it looks like a storm, messed up the entire house. So as she's walking, she finds Zinnia covering Holly and Holly covering the baby, and they like got themselves under like a dresser or something, and they were like holding each other, and Zinnia's like, you did it, like you saved Holly. And like, Fern's crying and Holly's crying, and Miss Parsley's whole coven is there, and they're walking out towards the back. She's like, let's go, Fern. And Fern's like, I'm not ready to go. I already gave up my baby. Like, I don't want to do this. I just want to go home. And it's really bad. And they did see Reverend Jerry on the ground. They don't even know if he's dead or alive at this point. But she's like, whatever. And then they walk to the back, and that's where they're talking and stuff. And they're going back and forth. And the rest of the coven is like, you know what, Parse, she doesn't want to come. Like, what are you gonna do? If she doesn't want to be here, we're not gonna turn her into Mags, because that's something that they kind of talk about, is that like Mags didn't have a choice. The crazy lady with the diaper and all the hair and the bad hygiene, she went crazy because they did it against her will, basically, is putting all the ancestors in her. So when she's coherent, it's because one of the ancestor witches comes through to her, and then she's back to crazy again. So they're like, she doesn't want to do this. And Holly's like, but I do. I have nothing to go back home to. I want to come. So they end up letting her go and taking her baby. And Parse's like, all right, I wanted it to be Fern because obviously she's powerful enough to make this happen. But if she doesn't want to come, she doesn't want to come. So Zinnia and Fern just hold each other, and they take off, the whole coven. They leave, they take Holly and the baby, and they go on their way. So the rest of the girls and Fern, they all go to the hospital. They get their wounds tended to. Fern gets her tongue stitched up, and her dad picks her up from the hospital, and that's it. She goes home. So now we jump to 54 years later, and it's current day. And Fern's writing a letter to Charlie, and she's telling her what happened, the story. So the book is essentially just a letter to Charlie, right? And she's telling her that now she's a doula. She never had any more children, and she just never really could carry on with her life. Like, all of that was just too traumatic for her to really deal with. So she got in touch with Rose, and Rose invited her out to her farm where she does live with Blossom and her granddaughters, and they're all lesbians at this point. It's like just these lesbian women living off the land. They're happy and doing their thing. And Fern's telling her, you know, hey, Charlie and I, like, she reached out to me, and she, you know, I think she knows who I am, and I've got a phone number for her. I just haven't called her yet. I don't know what to do. And Rose is like, well, I got Blossom 30 years ago, and we've been close ever since, and maybe this will work out for you, you know? Maybe it's time. And she's like, so how did Charlie find out, you know, that you anyway? Like, how would she know? You were a Jane Doe at the hospital. And Holly held on to that wedding ring. She held on to Fern's dad's wedding ring all that time. And on the inside of the wedding ring, there was an inscription. It just said, like, their last name was Craven, and the dates, right, of the wedding dates for him and the mother. So it was the grandparents' names. And Charlie said it just appeared on her kitchen table. She got up one day and found the ring and saw the dates and started Googling and looking into it. So this is when Rose is like, well, you know, I didn't even think Holly was going to be alive. And Fern's like, yeah. She said, back in the 80s, I saw on TV that Reverend Jerry was up doing a sermon, and like in front of his congregation, he was doing just a regular sermon, a regular Sunday. And out of nowhere, it was like a witchcraft. He looked like he was in a trance. He started confessing to what he did to Holly when she was 8 years old, and the pregnancy and the baby. And he started talking about the things he's done to other kids, and it's all caught on video. And then he was arrested and put in jail. So there's that. He wouldn't be paroled or anything till 2031 if he even made it that long. And then she tells Rose how she found Zinnia. Zinnia's real name was Carol Dabney, and she saw her in Georgetown at the college campus. So Fern was there for a conference or like a class or something, and as she was walking, she says that she saw her face, and she's like, Zinnia? And well, I mean, that wasn't her real name, so it's like only so many people could actually know. Like, who else could it be, right? So she looked at her and she's like, Fern. And they hugged and they talked. And well, Carol, Zinnia, she tells her, like, yeah, he waited for me. Paul, the guy, the boyfriend, she's like, he waited for me, and we got married, and we ended up having more kids, she said. And I did find my son. I tracked him down, and he wanted nothing to do with me, she said. So I'm just waiting for, in case he ever does want to, then we'll be here for him. So that's where Fern got this whole idea. It was like, well, maybe Charlie will never want anything to do with me. Maybe she'll never want to talk to me or anything. But Rose tells her, like, you got to do this, you know. If she wants nothing to do with you, then that's just a risk you've got to take. But if you want to talk to her, you're going to have to talk to her. So that's where the letter came in. And it does say that they did speak on the phone, and that Charlie was crying, and she's like, I understand, I totally understand, you know, that you were just a young girl, you were only 15, and, you know, it was a different time then. And Fern's bawling her eyes out and how much she just wanted to talk to her, and they kind of leave it like that. So, but that's the book. That was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. It did take me a little longer to read it than usual. I'm usually a very fast reader, but it was very emotional and just not at all what I was expecting from a Grady Hendrix book. But I loved it overall, and I love the girls. I love that they were all named after flowers, and I loved all the little like zodiac talk, and there's a lot that I left out. But if that sounded interesting, I still think you should read it because there is much more to it, and that was just like the story pretty much. But I hope that you liked it, and I'll catch you on the next one, bookworms.